Are you appreciating the now? We talked about that the other day, the present moment, because guess what? That's all there is. When I spoke about that, it was the present moment. That was a couple days ago. Now I'm speaking about it again, and now is the present moment. That's really all we have. Tonight, it's a beautiful night here. It's almost like the Caribbean. There's quite a big breeze, and it's about 75 or 80 degrees, and it's just great. Now, we appreciate these days in Missouri because we have such extremes here between hot and cold. Now, do I have to go to the Caribbean to appreciate this beautiful evening? No, I don't. Although I do have some contrast because I know what it's like there and I know what it's like here most of the time. But tonight it just happens to be like that down there. So I really appreciate this beautiful evening. But can I appreciate it when it's freezing cold outside? Well, I don't appreciate the weather as much, of course, but I appreciate what I have. You must focus on the wealth you have. And if you do focus on the wealth you have, even if it's just a scant store, it will become more. What most people do is focus on what they don't have. And we all have a lot if we live here in a first world country. Even the homeless guy I saw the other night. He walked up past the food pantry and they have a little shelf compartment thing there. It's made like a little house. And it's for the homeless people, and he was able to get him some food out of there. In many countries in the world, people are starving today. They don't have a little shelf house with food in it for homeless people or for people who are hungry, but we have that here. Now, whether he appreciated that or not, I really don't know, but I would say he probably did. Sometimes the less we have, the more we appreciate. I never appreciated a washer and a dryer until I lived without one in Latin America for about 6 years. We had one a couple times for a few months or a year. But the other times we washed our clothes on a rock in a lake and on what they call a pila. Did I enjoy that time? Probably not as much as I enjoy now because I really didn't grasp the value of living in the moment and enjoying the journey. I was starting in English school when I was down there, and I was kind of thinking about the future when I got my school going. But as I look back on that difficult time when I lived similar to the poverty of the people who lived there, I mean, it's like a Feed the Hungry commercial. We lived in a concrete house with a cornstalk kitchen, and I would walk 11 or 12 miles a day to teach English for $1 an hour. Now, I did have some money, about $600 a month, coming in every month. Okay, so that put me above the rest of the people, most of the people that lived in the area I was, because it was extreme poverty where I lived. I didn't want to pay much for rent, so I paid like $100 a month for this area we had. But looking back on that, I didn't own anything except foam mattresses. We slept on the floor. We had 2 or 3 kids. Yeah, we had 3 kids, I think. I've had so many sometimes I forget. And the kids played out in the yard, and the yard was just dirt, and we had a lemon tree out there. One of my boys named Henry, he's almost 20 now, he played under the lemon tree. And that was one of the better times that I had in that marriage of 12 years because we were both working together. She was staying home, which she usually did anyway, and was cooking, buying food at the market, really conserving the money, doing very well with that, being frugal. And I was walking and building up the English school, which I did get it built up. We got a place, and it became very successful. But as we got more money, she became more discontent. It seemed to cause more problems because she came from poverty, so it was difficult for her to accept abundance. She always found a way to self-sabotage it. Now, I'm not bad-mouthing her. I've self-sabotaged myself many times. I've done the same thing, and many of you have probably done that too. And the best thing I can tell you is to recognize when you're starting to do it again and look for the patterns. Because it's really hard to enjoy the present moment if you're trying to get yourself out of a crisis. And I spent a lot of my life trying to get myself out of crises. But what I've learned to do is to take and create constructive crises. What I'm talking about is taking a risk on an investment or something you're doing and putting everything out there on that. And then instead of spending all your energy trying to get out of a bind that you got yourself in, you're trying to spend all your energy to create something. Sure, you're in a bind, kind of in a crisis, but it's a constructive crisis, because in the end, if you succeed, there's a risk in everything, then you will have something more. You will have expanded. As opposed to a destructive crisis where you get yourself in a spot and you're just trying to figure out how to get out of it. When you're done, you have relief, and that's it until the next crisis. So it's best to create constructive crises instead of destructive crises. So take a look at your life, look at yourself, and see what kind of crises you have been creating, what kind of risks you have been taking. Have you taken risks that will expand your life, that will expand your consciousness? Or have you taken risks that decrease your abundance, that decrease the, expand, contract your consciousness, get you into feelings of resentment and anger and injustice, like people are being unjust to you, taking advantage of you, doing you wrong? I suggest you stay away from people like that. And something else, when you meet people, you really don't have to know much about them, but if you can look at the type of people they hang around, if you know something about their friends, because every living thing loves its own kind. Every man a man like himself. Have you ever seen a wolf allied with a lamb, or an eagle with a buzzard? So it is with man. Every man is drawn to men like themselves. It's something to keep in mind, because it's hard to enjoy a present moment if all your friends and associates are sucking the life out of you, or taking advantage of you, or lying to you, or being deceitful with you. Those types of people you need to stay away from. But you won't have to make a conscious decision to stay away from these people when you clean house and your own consciousness is clean and you are living the way you want to live. Because we don't attract so much what we want, we attract what we are. So what are you? Go take a good look in the mirror. What are you? Are you a person who lies? Are you a person who is rigorously honest? Are you a generous person? Are you a kind person? Are you a loving and tolerant person? Now, we all fall short on these, of course. I know I do many times. But in general, the majority of the time, what principles do you practice? Love and kindness, or anger and hatred? Are you bad-mouthing people behind their back? Do you talk to your boss when he gets, let's say, he gets a commendation from the company because he really did well, and he thanks you for your effort, and you commend him and tell him he did a great job, but then you go talk to your other employee and say, yeah, he don't deserve that. I did all the work. You know, how do you treat people when they're not around you? I heard one time they said, never say anything about someone else that you wouldn't want printed in the paper. Well, I guess now it would be that you don't want on social media. It's a good rule to practice. Do I do it perfectly? Of course I don't. Gossip, criticism is like a destroyer. And there's a lot of gossip on social media. I try to stay away from any kind of bad-mouthing other people. I don't agree with a lot of things people say, but you can disagree in a respectful manner where you don't attack the person's character. I find many times on social media that if you debate with someone, they a lot of times will come back and attack your character, the haters, I suppose. So what does that have to do with living in the moment? Once again, it's hard to enjoy the present moment if you're conflicting with other people, if you're arguing with other people. But then again, you draw these people to you. Anytime you feel anger, All that is you've created a situation or put yourself in a situation to express the anger that is already in you. That car pulling out in front of you didn't make you mad. You had that anger already. You created that situation or put yourself into that situation to express the anger that is in you, because no one can make you mad. I know that's hard to believe, or sad or happy or anything. How many times do we hear it said, how will you meet someone and you'll be happy? Well, if you're not happy now, I used to go to a church where the pastor said, if you get married, you get a girlfriend, it's double the trouble. It's much easier being single. Some of the great metaphysicians and spiritual leaders of all time were single. Very difficult though, but some of them were. But it's just as difficult being married or being with a woman. Even if it's someone you get along with well, you're going to have some difficulties. It's unrealistic to think you're going to live with someone or spend a lot of time with someone and you're always going to agree upon everything. But a healthy disagreement a lot of times creates a stronger bond. So there again, are you enjoying your wife and family today? Or are you thinking about how it's going to be when the kids graduate, when they go off to college, or when you retire, or when you get that raise, or when you change that position, or when you get the new house, the new car, the place at the lake? It doesn't matter, because when you get there, it will be now then. Everything you have today is something you wanted yesterday. Now, I know most of you are probably not under the false impression that things will make you happy or money will make you happy. But I do like the old saying, money buys a lot more. I have all the doors open, I got bugs coming in here. Money buys more happiness than poverty does. Of course we need money. But anything past a certain amount where your basic needs are met is icing on the cake. And Lord knows I like icing. I like to travel. I like when the money flows in. But a man needs to learn how to be, joyful or content or happy in the present moment, whether he has a lot or whether he has not. Now, it's not easy to do, but to remain grateful and appreciative during the hard times when the money's not flowing, this will bring you to a point where the money will be flowing again and more abundantly. These times will humble you and let you realize that you're not doing it all. You don't do anything by yourself. If you believe in God, which I do, I don't know how to explain God. I don't really agree with all the explanations of God in these different religious texts, but I do believe in a power greater than myself, and I believe that power resides in you and in me. So I cannot accomplish anything in life without your help, without everybody's help. I don't care how great your product is, if there's no one to buy it, you will not succeed in that area as far as succeeding with selling your product. So if God does work through people, then I need all the help from people that I can get. I used to be of a mind that if you want something done right, you do it yourself. Well, that's not true. A person that has a skill, like I have, needs to pass that on to other people. And if you can help other people to become successful, guess what happens to you? You too become successful. And the more you give away, the more you help others, you bring happiness and joy into their life, then guess what returns to you? Multiplied. Happiness, joy, contentment, a wonderful life in the present moment. And you can enjoy the now. And you're not sitting there all the time thinking about, when I get this, when I get that, when I have that new house, when I get that new car, when I meet that new girl, when I get married, when I have kids, when the kids graduate, etc., ad infinitum. Now is all we have. And most of the time when we're afraid, we're unhappy, we're discontent, we really have no reason to be discontent in the present moment, because everything is okay right now. Think about that. That's all I have for today. Thanks for joining me. Like, share, and subscribe. Take care, and I will see you next time.